When I built these garden boxes here in the hothouse a year or so ago, one of the jobs I never got around to finishing was the edges on all of the boxes. I started with some metal edging, which I had, and it's great, but it's fairly expensive. So I only used what I had available and looked for a cheaper solution. I did experiment with using some of the poly of micro irrigation, but the problem with all the polypipe type pipes as an edging is that they come in rolls, and so it wants to curl up, and it's very, very difficult to put on an edge. But what I've come up with as one of the simplest and easiest edges, and also very, very cheap, is this. It's electrical conduit. 20mm electrical conduit. You buy it for, well, here it's $3 for a 4 meter length. So that's very, very cheap. Means that I'm able to do an edge on a garden box like this for about $5. What I do is simply cut it along one side with a nice fine cut. My preferred tool for doing this is a multi-tool, but you could use an angle grinder or a bench saw. A multi-tool simply creates very little dust in doing it and gives you a very fine cut. Now, the fine cut means that it goes on very tight. It means it's more effort to actually put on, slide on, but it also means it's harder to get off. It doesn't come off of its own accord easily. Now, pushing it along, you'll see it's quite tight there. But that means a really nice tight edge. I will put some screws in to actually hold it in place so that it's really, really firm when it's finished. The corners don't always turn out so pretty. It's hard with this type of thing to get it always right. So I solve that by putting a little bit of silicone into the corners, and when that's dried that'll actually soften the corner up anyway, so that if you did bump it, it's not as hard. So not a bad thing. So finally, this is all the beds completed, and now I know that if my children happen to trip in here or something, that it's quite safe, not going to hurt themselves. This way of building raised beds I found to be really effective and very cheap. This is simply sheets of corrugated iron that I have cut down the middle. So it's a half height. Now you could build full height if you wished, but you have a lot more to support and a lot more to fill. But the half height beds I find really good, and it's built out of second grade corrugated iron, so very cheap to buy. You could use new or recycled, whatever you have available. In the corners I simply use a 90-degree angle to hold it together and pop rivet that in, and in the middle I have used a piece of 20 by 20 steel that is screwed on that actually holds the sides from bowing out. And these beds were really cheap to build compared to if you went and bought standard corrugated iron beds, or even if you built them out of wood. This was quite a bit cheaper, and I know they're going to last really well. This bed I can now prepare to plant capsicums and eggplant, both things that I could grow outside, but I find that they come into production a lot earlier by putting them here in the hothouse. If I was in a coastal environment in Tassie, then it would be okay to grow them outside, but being a bit inland, still get some cooler nights early in spring and early summer, it's much better to put them inside and get a better result.